Hello fellow streamers, I just want to show you guys a quick video on how to set up an advanced queue using the MixItUp bot. The game queue tool is a great tool for you to allow viewers to join games with you, but they need to wait in a line behind other viewers. I believe the MixItUp game queue has a couple shortcomings. One of them is that if you end the queue, because you don't want people to join anymore, it clears out everyone in the list. Another problem is the situation where a user executes a command to join your queue, but you don't have the queue open. You need to give them an error message indicating that there is no available queue at the moment. Here's a view of my game queue with 3 users in it. When I disable the queue, they get removed. I resolve these issues by never actually closing the queue with my commands, but rather using global special identifiers. Here is a list of my game queue commands. This includes your typical commands, the admin commands of starting your queue and closing your queue, as well as the very common one, join queue. Let's take a closer look at the start queue command. This is an advanced command with several actions. The very first one, I have the special identifier. I declare the name of the special identifier and set it to global with a value of true. This special identifier is the key to an advanced queue. This is what helps the rest of your application know if the queue is open or not. You need to make the special identifier global so that the join and close queue commands can read it. I then have an action which sends out a message to chat saying that the lobby queue is open, and then I actually enable the queue. It's important to note that in no other commands do I ever disable the queue. Instead, we just use conditional actions to check global identifier values. The next important command is the queue close command. In here, we have the special identifier action again, and in this time we're making that global identifier false so the join command will know that the queue is closed. And then we also have a chat message saying that the queue is closed. We can ignore the mixplay commands for now. And then we have the very important join command. This looks a little tricky. It's an advanced command which comprises of many actions. All of them are conditional actions, which check our special global identifier that we set in the start queue and end queue commands. You might be wondering what these conditional actions are. These are just actions that perform only if a certain scenario is true. So you'll see coming up, all we do is check if our global identifier is equal to true or false and do certain actions based on that. So if our global identifier mentioned earlier is false, we give the user an error message. If it's true, we add them to the queue and give them some positive messages. The very first action is to check if the queue is actually closed, and if it is, we give an error message to the user. So let's take a closer look. This conditional action is looking to see if our global identifier is queue open, is set to false, or if it is set to its own text, which is the default value if it's never been set. We can then derive that the queue is not open and we want to send an error message to the user. All other actions in our command are things that we do when the queue is actually open. So we actually add them to the queue, we play a sound, we send a welcome message to them, and I also send a whisper to them. When a new user joins the queue, I also like to temporarily display the list of users that are in queue on the screen via overlay, which is what those last 3 were. So let's take a closer look at the join queue where we actually add them to the queue. It is another conditional. You can see we're checking the global identifier, making sure that it's set to true. And if it is, we do a single action, game queue action, user join queue. For the sound, we do the same thing. You can see we check the value. If it's true, we do a single action sound. And then we do that all the way down for the welcome message, for the whisper that we send to the user to tell them to send me an Xbox Live message so I can quickly add them, and so on and so forth. So there you have it. You know how to use global identifiers and conditional actions.